But what do you do if you decide to end a relationship or an engagement? What happens to your belongings? Joining us now to talk about this is Tanya Davies of Davies Law Firm. Tanya, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Annette. Thanks for having me.
So what's the first thing you should do if you decide to end a relationship if it was in a relationship that was in an engagement?
In a situation like this, normally the person, because obviously whenever there's an engagement situation, there would be an engagement ring. So normally a guy who proposes would ask for the ring back. And there are two schools of thought in the U.S., for example, just to compare it to the Canadian system, where the law states in certain states in the U.S. that a ring is essentially a gift. So even if you do not proceed with your marriage, if you break up, the girl keeps the ring. In other jurisdictions in the states, the law states that it's a contract. And our system basically follows that system in the U.S. Since a contract is based on a condition of essentially getting married post your engagement, if the marriage does not proceed, then the party, and normally it's a woman who breaks the engagement, does not fulfill her part of the bargain, essentially, her part of the contract, and then the ring would have to be given back.
All right, so it's pretty black and white, I would imagine, then, when it comes to the law here. The ring has to go back to whoever provides it.
This is what most judges would decide. There is a lot of case law on it. You can still present arguments similar along the lines of the arguments with those cases in the U.S.
Sure.
But most likely it will not.
What about if there's other items or property between the couple? How does that get resolved?
So if the couple is married, then it doesn't really matter whose name the property is in. In that situation, everything gets thrown into the formula, because there is a formula to the division of property, also known as equalization. But if you're common law, for example, if you're residing together, then it would be divided based on the property ownership. So if the property is in my name, for example, then it stays with me. If the property is in the common law husband's name, then it would stay with him.
What if it were things that you purchased together as a couple? Let's say you were together for 2 years and you purchased a vehicle together, or you did some remodeling, or you purchased some big items together, a great big television. Who gets it? How is that decided?
So again, in a married couple situation, it's the same thing as that I just described right now. But if it's common law, then basically whoever pays for the item, you can make claims for unjust enrichment. I paid for it, so you cannot keep it. I would have to get compensated for it or get the physical item itself.
How do you decide, are there laws in place for splits like this for folks who are engaged, or common law that are as black and white as it is for folks who are married?
Whenever you're married, there's a statute in place and you follow the law. Some of the wording in the statute would be ambiguous, so you would have to look up case law that constantly changes to interpret the statute. But with common law couples, normally you would base the situation on precedent.
If a couple is thinking about moving in together or maybe becoming engaged, are there legal documents or things they should look into before doing that to protect themselves in the event that the relationship does not last?
From a lawyer's perspective, I would always recommend to my clients, you need a prenuptial agreement, you need a cohabitation agreement. Of course, couples often say, especially if the proposal comes on Valentines Day, for example, it's absolutely not romantic, but we know that, yes, perhaps, and there is an emotional element to it, but legally, from a lawyer's perspective, the odds are against you, and chances are that most likely than not, you would be looking at a separation, so you might as well protect yourself.
Can it really make things a lot easier when there's a prenuptial agreement involved?
It's not 100% bulletproof. You can always try to set it aside, and there are certain conditions. If they're not fulfilled, you can make that argument, but it's definitely better, and it protects you compared to a situation of no agreement.
All right, Tanya, thank you. Some wonderful information.
Thanks, Annette.